This van looked like the smart choice. 3 years later, it cost him $22,000 without ever breaking down once. That number isn't from a lemon, it's from a perfectly functional Ford Transit Full that the owner bought for the right reasons, drove without problems, and still lost a significant amount of money on because of costs that never appear in any buying guide, any forum post, or any dealership conversation. In this video, you're going to find out exactly which size camper van saves money over a real 3 to 5 year ownership window. We're going to cover fuel, insurance, access, campsite fees, resale, and the one cost that blindsides more buyers than any other. By the end of this, you'll know which size fits your actual life, not the one you're picturing at midnight watching van tours. Part 1. The illusion of value. Here's where most buyers go wrong before they've even set foot in a dealership. They compare price per square foot. They look at a compact Class B, say a Winnebago Travato, and then they look at a full-size Class C on a Ram ProMaster body, and they think, more van for similar money. But that calculation ignores everything that happens after the purchase. And this is where most buyers quietly lose $10,000 without realizing it. Bigger vans cost more to own. That's not an opinion, that's math. Start with fuel. A large Class C averaging 12 miles per gallon versus a compact Class B averaging 22. If you drive 15,000 miles a year, modest for full-timers, at $4 a gallon, that's $2,000 more every single year. Over 5 years, that's $10,000 gone before you've touched a single repair bill, before a single campsite fee, before insurance, before anything. In Europe, the gap is worse. A Mercedes Sprinter-based compact at 30 miles per gallon versus a Heimer B-Class at 22 over the same annual distance. Diesel costs more. The penalty compounds harder. But fuel is actually not the number that destroys most budgets. The number that destroys most budgets is something else entirely. Part 2. The hidden cost nobody calculates. A couple in California bought a 26-foot Class C motorhome in late 2022. Nice unit, well-built, drove it up the Pacific coast, spent summers in the Rockies. Year 2, a slide-out hydraulic seal failed. Then the roof membrane developed a slow leak, then the fresh water pump. None of those are catastrophic failures. All three together cost $11,400, plus 6 weeks of downtime waiting for an RV technician with availability. That's the repair ecosystem problem, and it hits large van owners in a way compact van owners almost never experience. A Class B on a Ford Transit or Sprinter chassis gets repaired at any commercial van workshop. Parts exist in volume. Labor is standard. A fully built Class C motorhome on a specialty chassis has a completely different repair universe. RVIA certified builds are warranted as integrated units, which sounds reassuring until something goes wrong and you discover that the living space plumbing, the habitation electrics, and the slide mechanism fall outside the drivetrain warranty entirely. In Europe, this hits buyers of large panel van motorhomes, the Reisemobile category, who find that while their chassis carries a Euro 6D certification, the habitation layer beyond the standard 3-year manufacturer coverage leaves them paying out-of-pocket to workshops that charge accordingly. Compact van owners on mainstream platforms, a Travato goes to a Ford commercial dealer, a Volkswagen California goes to a VW dealership. The parts are common, the mechanics are everywhere, the wait times are measured in days, not weeks. Here's what this means for your budget. It's not just the repair bill, it's the combination of the bill, the downtime, and the cost of not being able to use the van you're still paying insurance on while it sits in a service bay. Part 3. 3 buckets where your money actually goes. If you get this part wrong, the van doesn't matter. You're losing money either way. Access, depreciation, and lifestyle fit. These 3 buckets determine your real ownership cost, not the sticker price, not the monthly payment. These 3. Access first. Large Class C vans and full-size motorhomes get denied entry, and this is documented, not anecdotal, from a significant percentage of the best, cheapest overnight locations in both the US and Europe. Anything over 25 feet gets turned away from older state park loops, most BLM dispersed camping pullouts with height restrictions, the vast majority of Airs and Stellplatz sites in France and Germany, and an increasing number of urban overnight zones. This forces large van owners into commercial RV parks, which are convenient, but at $50 to $80 per night in the US and $35 to $65 in Western Europe, the cost compounds fast. A full-timer spending 200 nights a year in paid sites because their van is too large for free alternatives is spending $10,000 to $16,000 annually just on accommodation. A compact van owner with access to BLM land, airs, and informal overnight areas, their accommodation cost can be close to zero. Now, depreciation, because this is where the 2022 buyer with the $22,000 loss got hit hardest. Large Class C motorhomes dropped 30 to 40% during the post-pandemic correction. Units bought at peak 2020 to 2022 pricing cratered in value within 18 months as demand normalized. Compact B units on Sprinter and Transit platforms held value better through the same window. Why? Because a compact van has a second-hand buyer pool that includes van lifers, weekend users, tradespeople, and retirees who want something manageable. A 32-foot motorhome has exactly one buyer, someone who specifically wants a 32-foot motorhome. That narrow market means longer selling times, more negotiating leverage on the buyer's side, and steeper discounts when you need to move quickly. The $22,000 loss wasn't bad luck. It was a predictable outcome of a platform with limited resale liquidity at the wrong point in the market cycle.
Part 4. The medium-sized trap. Here's the part that will change how you think about this entire category. The most expensive camper van to own over 5 years isn't the biggest one, it's the medium one. Medium-sized vans, 22 to 26-foot Class C motorhomes on ProMaster or Transit chassis, or mid-size European panel van conversions occupy the worst position in the ownership cost spectrum. They're too large to access most compact overnight spots. They can't fit a standard residential parking space in most European cities. They get turned away from half of all premium campsites. But they're not large enough to justify any of those costs because the living space isn't meaningfully better than a well-built compact. A retiree in Germany bought a mid-size panel van motorhome in 2023, specifically sized it to stay under the limits he thought would give him European city access. 3 months in, the ZFE zones in Stuttgart and Munich barred his chassis under local emissions thresholds that weren't visible in the original spec sheet. He'd paid a medium van premium for city flexibility he didn't actually have, the access limitations of a full-size motorhome on a chassis that didn't justify a full-size motorhome's living space. This is the medium van trap, and it catches buyers who are trying to be smart. In the US, the Jayco Redhawk 22A sits in this exact trap, small enough that buyers assume it'll drive and park like a regular van. It doesn't. It parks like a motorhome, gets turned away from Class B sites, and carries the insurance, maintenance, and repair ecosystem of a full RV, just in a body that doesn't deliver the living space to justify any of those costs. Smart buyers either go compact and get the full access advantage, or go full size and get the living space that justifies the cost structure. The middle is where money disappears quietly, without drama, over a long period of time. Part 5. Who actually saves money? Let's be direct. Here's who the numbers actually support. Compact Class B, Ford Transit, Sprinter, ProMaster City in the US, Volkswagen California, Mercedes Marco Polo, Fiat Ducato-based or Peugeot Boxer-based conversions in Europe. These make financial sense for weekend users and part-time van lifers who need real dual-purpose utility. The van runs as a daily driver or work vehicle during the week. That drops your cost per use dramatically. Full-time solo travelers and couples prioritizing access over interior square footage. If you're spending 180 or more nights a year on free or low-cost locations, BLM land, Iris, Stellplatz, wild camping, The compact van pays for itself in accommodation savings within 2 to 3 years. That's not a projection, that's arithmetic. Buyers in urban Europe or anyone operating in emissions-restricted zones, UULEZ in London, ZFE zones in Paris and Barcelona, low-emission zones across German cities. Large motorhomes fail these zones or require expensive retrofits. A compact van on a Euro 6D engine or an EV conversion moves freely. That freedom has a real financial value. Full-size Class A and upper-tier Class C motorhomes make sense for a narrower profile. Families of 4 or more doing extended travel where interior space is a daily functional necessity. 2 adults and 2 children spending a full summer on the road, the extra square footage in a well-built Class A isn't a luxury, it's what keeps the trip intact. Retirees with a comfort-first, base camp model who spend most nights at hookup sites and treat the motorhome as a mobile residence. If access limitations don't hurt your usage, the cost structure can be justified, but only if you're completely honest about how you'll actually use it. Here's the important part, though. Most buyers are not honest about their actual travel patterns, and that's where the real money gets lost. Part 6. The mistake that costs the most. This is the single most expensive error in campervan buying. It's almost never discussed honestly because the entire content ecosystem around van life is built on aspiration, not analysis. Buying for the life you want instead of the trip you'll actually take. Most people don't buy the wrong van, they buy the wrong version of their life. Van life content, and there are tens of thousands of channels built around it, shows you a curated version of ownership. The couple waking up above a mountain lake in a beautifully fitted compact, the family with the full-size motorhome and the golden hour lighting, the retired couple parked at Zion. What it doesn't show you is the 40% of weekends where life happens and the van sits in the driveway. The campsite fees that accumulate when the large van can't find free spots, the repair bill in year 2, the resale negotiation in year 4 when the buyer on the other side of the deal has done the research you didn't. Smart buyers do this differently. They calculate actual trip frequency before purchasing. They count realistic nights per year. They divide the total ownership cost, purchase price minus projected resale, plus fuel, insurance, maintenance, and site fees, by that number of nights. That cost per night figure tells you the truth that no dealership conversation will ever give you. A $90,000 Class C motorhome used 60 nights a year, held 5 years, sold at a $25,000 loss, roughly $500 per night before fuel and fees. A $55,000 Class B van, same 60 nights, held 5 years, sold at a $12,000 loss, under $250 per night, and that's before the accommodation savings from free overnight access. That's the gap. Not in the brochure, not in the forum, in the spreadsheet that most buyers never build before they sign. This is where amateurs lose money, and this is where smart buyers win. Here's where the data lands. For the majority of buyers, part-timers, full-time couples, European buyers, urban dwellers, anyone who wants to use free overnight infrastructure, the compact Class B is the financially rational choice, not the exciting choice, not the impressive in the driveway choice, the one that wins when you run the numbers 5 years out. For families doing extended travel or retirees operating in hookup site networks where access limitations are irrelevant to their usage model, the earns its cost structure, but only if you're honest about how you'll actually use it. The medium van loses in almost every scenario for almost every buyer. That's not a bold claim. That's what the ownership data shows once you stop looking at the purchase price and start looking at what the van actually costs to keep. Buy the van that fits the life you'll live, not the one that looks best before you've done the math. One question for the comments. What size were you planning to buy before this video, and are you still confident in that decision? Drop it below. The most honest answers are always the most useful ones.